This is fabulous. Here they are looking down. There's Typhon. There's the fish's fin. All right. Typhon is spitting down at the fish's fin. And here's Typhon's neck running all the way down, all the way down. And here's all the runoff of his body. And can we see that on Google Earth? Well, I suspect we can. Here he is right here. They were just coming right across here. Whoops. Looking down at the fish's fin right here, in that white spot. And Typhon right above with all of the blood running off. Well, this is bodily fluids. It's not blood. This is blood. The black and the red is blood. And here's his throat. You see this? That's his throat. And you're going to see this in the NASA shot in a second. There's his throat running straight up. And all that black stuff is shooting down at the fish's fin. They're coming right about like this. And they're looking, they can see this. They can see his throat. They can see his head. They can see the fin. They can see that white spot. And there it is right there. There's the white spot. There's the fin. There's the black stuff coming out of Typhon's mouth. And here's his throat running all the way up to his head. Spitting all that black stuff at the fish's fin. I don't think that's hard to see. It's not hard.
As it did, that's great.
Here's his body. Look, it just keeps going.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive little spacecraft. We were kind of tickled to be able to get so much data out of it.
Well, I'm coming back. Let's see.
Our analysis indicates that the battery's just about done all it can.
Here's the fin. And here's Typhon's head shooting down his spit right at him.
I'm impressed that it stayed in there as long as it did. That's great.
There's his throat running all the way back, and there's the runoff. You cannot be any clearer. If they can't see that, I don't know why they can't see that. They're right there. They're right above this. They're not far at all from this. And that's a dragon scaled throat. These are the dragon scales. And this is what they call effluent, which is fluids that just leach out of a dead, dying, decaying body, and that's leached out. Now this is a different story. Out of his beards, I've traced this very carefully. He has a toxic chemistry set way down in here. All right, that's where he makes his toxic stuff. And it comes up this yellow band all the way up. This is his throat, and it follows the throat all the way up. It was cut here with a great and mighty sword. And this is runoff of red blood. You see that? That's all red blood running off. And it does not like the black blood. Red and black stay apart. It's all iron banding. There's going to be an actual membrane looking thing that separates the red from the black. The black grows nothing. It's expended blood. The red grows everything. It's green in the desert. And there's a membrane that separates the two of them. They do not like to be together. They hate each other. You see it? So you stay here and I'll stay over here. And they both leaked out of the same wound. Right here. The black went this way, the red went this way. And it goes straight up here, all the way up, and then don't forget, the yellow is the toxic. Now, what do you see what happens? Very, very stunning. This, again, is his head. All that is his unkempt hair. Read Apollodorus 1.6.3. It explains exactly what he looked like with his red flared eye, and his throat was cut while he was trying to attack the gods who turned themselves into animals. It's exactly what it says. That's a fish. And he attacked it, and he got part of him. All the way down to here, his toxic, nasty stuff came out. So what toxic, nasty stuff, Roger? Well, It's the yellow coming all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. Now, where does it go? Out his beards. I'm not kidding you. Look. There's the yellow, 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 coming down here to his beards. Those are his beards. You see, that's one beard, and that's the other beard. They all seem to have beards. Quetzalcoatl does too. So what happens here? It splits. Part of this yellow stuff comes down here and goes to this beard and services this stuff, which looks like an injector system that goes into here. You see them? You'd call that a manifold. All right, the one big jobber comes in and the whole batch of squirting goes on out here. It looks like to me. It's going back here for some reason. And it looks like it's squirting into here. And creating this noxious, nasty, ugly, vile, nasty stuff. Really, really bad, unhealthy stuff. Look at that. How this happens? I know what he's doing. He wants to spit out and kill the thing. Now, why does this happen? This is the other side. Totally different. This one splits here, and this comes over here. Now, this is not the same stuff. Something happens in the middle here with this, which is what you could call yikes. And then this side here does just about as nasty as you can be. Look at that stuff. Of your life, there's a dragon on the loose. In between here, it looks like there's sparks going on. I don't know. So what happens over here? All of this nastiness comes down towards the fish. All this green, noxious, nasty. Look at this is red and green and nasty and vile and horrifying looking. Look at that. And the whole thing heads down to the fish. So here we go. A torrent of nastiness. And it really basically explodes right at the top of the fish's fin. You see that? How white that looks and how nasty. That is breaking through the fish's fin. Look at this. That's contact with the fish's fin. Now, what happens there? It starts to eat in. Look at, see, every time it hits another layer of the fin, it does all that nasty stuff. And then another layer of nasty stuff, and another layer, until it gets down to what you'd call the vital flesh. And what is the vital flesh? It's right here, the hump. You see it? So what is that nasty stuff going to do? Well, it's going to poison the fish, basically poison it. And it is so vile that it melted the fish's scales. I'm not kidding you. I'm going to show you. It melted the fish's scales. All right. And this is stunning, stunning, stunning stuff. That vile, nasty stuff hit the fish in the back. This area right here starts the vital flesh. Above that, that's floppy, fin. Probably live without that. But once you hit this vital flesh, you got problems. And it's really starting to invade. It's kicking in something serious. And here it is, melted the scales, melted them. Melted them, they're gone. Well, what's under the scales? What's under the scales? Well, the blood vessels. Basically, underneath the scales, you got blood vessels and you got fleshy stuff. You got arteries and veins. Well, let's see if we can find it. Melted. This is his back. There's supposed to be scales like here. You see these scales? Those are scales. They go this way. The fish would be going that way because the scales are this way. So the fish's eyeball, I believe, is right here. And this might be another eyeball. It might have been a flatfish because they do have this same, all of that webbing around and the tail and all this webbing around here. And then they have one eye and another wacky looking eye. I don't know if this is a flatfish or not. Who cares? It's a fish. All right, so forget the eyeballs. People, you got to focus in on one little thing. I don't know. That could be some other nightmare going on there. Some squid came up and tried to eat the eyeball. I don't know. This is the flesh. And it's melted. The scales, they're just gone. So where are we here? Well, let's go down and take a quick look. Well, that's an artery. That's an artery. And that's red blood. Because arteries bring down red blood. That's iron oxide now. It's not flowing red blood anymore. It's iron oxide. However, because of the characteristics of red blood, it never loses its vitality. All these things are growing green here in the middle of the desert. The black stuff doesn't grow. Nothing grows where the black was. Totally different substance. All right, so what's happening here? They're all branching off into these little blood vessels. They're blood vessels. Well, what's all these black things? Those are veins. And that is exactly the structure of blood vessels, veins, arteries, and even you can see the lymphatic system and even the lymph nodes. Now let's just come down here and look real close. You see this one right here? That's a vein. All right, let's start with the artery. Artery comes down, bringing all this nice vital red blood, which is still making things grow. And then all of these little things come off the edge and feed all the little blood cells that are everywhere. And this one comes down and feeds all these, and it comes down and feeds all those. However, at the end of feeding all those things, the blood has to go somewhere. Well, where does it go? Well, it's got to go back to the heart. Well, how does it get back to the heart? Well, it goes to the veins. Well, how does it get into the veins? And where are the veins? What do the veins look like? There they are right there. Veins are not just one tube that sucks from here all the way up and is closed. They're open tubes. They have porosity to them and all of these capillaries. Don't forget, let's go back again to the artery. Big tube. Branches off every different which way and feeds all of the little blood vessels. Every little tiny blood cell has to be continuously nurtured. So they end up dumping, after everybody takes this little bit of what is, it ends up dumping the contents into the vein. This is garbage. You see this stuff? That's garbage in here. That's trash. We're taking out the trash. We're taking out the garbage. All right, this stuff you don't want in your body anymore. It's done. It's no good. It's done. It has no value anymore. Nothing grows in it. It's not nourishing. It's got to be charged up. And when I say charged up, I mean charged up with polar little molecules, which are called the transition metals, and they attach ligands to them, which are the surrounding particles that surround the metal core. And these are the transition metals right in here primarily. Iron is one of the main ones, obviously carries oxygen. So all of that stuff ends up going back to the heart. And it gets pumped around and it gets more oxygen in it. The lungs are somewhere down in here. We can't see those because it didn't eat through those. However, over here we can see something that is just off the charts stunning. Right over here. Don't forget, we just ate into the vital flesh and we just saw, well, actually you didn't see what you should see is the lymphatic system. I was remiss. I was remiss. All right, let's get right down here to one of these arteries. They all work the same way. The capillaries come down and they dump the trash. Well, what's left over? Fluids. You see this? These aren't people walking through here game trails or any of that stuff. That is the lymphatic system. Those little tiny ducts go through the entire body, everywhere. And there's fluids in there. And these fluids contain the things that keep your body healthy. There's your enzymes, your bacteria and all that live in these layers, which is where the lymph is, which is the fascia, primarily membranes. And they suck up all the juices. You don't want to lose all that fluid. You don't want to lose that fluid. So it comes back down here and it sucks up all the juice out back into the body and lets all the trash move down the vein. That's just garbage. This here is sucking off the fluids. They're sucking off fluids back into the body. All right, so I think that makes it pretty clear how the veins, arteries, and so forth, and the lymphatic system works. Now, the lymph has to work with lymph nodes. Well, what is a lymph node? A lymph node deals with the lymph fluid that is all nasty. The lymph fluid gets very nasty because it's working with all the garbage. It's working with the vein garbage. It's working in the trash. It's working as a trash collector, and it's got to go get cleaned up every now and then. So it goes back and it passes through the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes take all the garbage, clean it up, send it back out in a very clean working way so it can go back and clean up some more garbage. However, if the lymph nodes are dead, then you get skin cancer, lymphoma. And this guy is getting lymphoma right down here. His lymph nodes are dead because they were attacked by this vile, nasty, noxious, ugly stuff. And right here we can see it, and we can also see that that lymph fluid is not stupid, it's intelligent. It's intelligent, but it was overwhelmed. It couldn't do the job. But it sent all of its troops here, as much of it could, over here to do the job. They just were overwhelmed. There is nothing more nasty than what Typhon was spitting down at the fish. It's just not. I don't think there's ever been anything nastier than this in history, but who knows? History is a lot different than we thought. All right, so I said I could show you that this lymph fluid is intelligent. Now, don't forget, here is flooding its nastiness down. It's dissolved through the actual scales, while here it's actually invaded into the flesh, right on this little edge right here. And then the lymph nodes tried to help the flesh, and it could not. So let's dig in right here. Okay, this is where the green nastiness is coming down. It's eating into the body, and it's sort of trying to get in, but it's being pushed back by the lymph fluids, pushing it, trying to keep it away. And it's coming down around, and it gets past the barrier of lymph fluids. This is an intelligent response. This is all lymph fluids intelligently responding to try to stop this invasion. but it's snuck around the corner here. All right, you see it? The nastiness got around the corner. It's digging, it's digging, it's digging, it's digging, it's digging. Ah, here, we found a place we can get in. And it starts to dig in. Now, here's where the lymph fluid is trying to come up to push it back and push it out. And it can't do it anymore. It's trying to clean off the lymph that's attacking into the body. And it's coming up here. This is all lymph fluids. Remember I showed you they were in those little tiny tubes? Well, not anymore. They're in a huge hose, like they're just squirting this stuff all over this to try to save the body, and it's too much. All of that fluid, which is normally just all those little tiny little things I showed you, you can't even see them. Now all of a sudden you have a torrent attacking that stuff, bringing this nasty juice with it. You see it? It's grabbing all that nastiness and bringing it down here and saying, we got to get this out of the body. This is going to kill us. We got to get it out of the body. So we'll bring it over to the lymph nodes. So they bring it over and they drop it into the lymph nodes. You see it coming down here? And it's supposed to come in here and get cleaned up in the middle and spit back out here nice and clean. Well, that didn't happen. Coming in, it was overwhelmed. So it's just overwhelmed with noxious nastiness. It's still got all its pink fluids. Over here, the pink is gone. There's no pink coming back out. It's supposed to come out nice and pink and clean. No, dead. This is the lymph node. And you say, well, how do you know that? Well, because first of all these little entrances are exactly what a lymph node does, and all these little exits are exactly what a lymph node does. Only it's supposed to come in pink with some sort of nasty stuff and then go out real nice and pink. Well, obviously it's not going out pink. And why? Because inside of here is dead. Dead. It killed the mechanism in here that worked. And what was the mechanism? It was bacteria and enzymes. It killed. This whole thing here is dead. It's black and dead. Now, what is this? You see these? Those are the filters. They're supposed to keep that stuff out until they can deal with it, and it just couldn't keep it out. There was just too much of it. It overwhelmed and killed the lymph node. So coming out of here now, we have nothing vital. There's no vitality coming out. It's dead. So the lymph is overwhelmed and is dead. And the next one down is dead. And the next one down is dead. And the next one down is dead. And they're all being killed right on down the line. They just cannot handle this influx of nastiness. You're not supposed to be able to see these. This is because they're dead. You can see them all the way down. You try to do their job, couldn't do it. Dead over here. Dead up here. And that's because this green, noxious, nasty stuff has broken through an attack of the lymph. The lymph tried to come over here and do its job. It just was overwhelmed. It could not do the job. It's very, very, very obvious when you see this that it was the lymph that tried to attack the oncoming nastiness in an overwhelming display of cohesive attack. All right, you see how much fluid is there? And it doesn't just get there by accident. Like I said, it created a barrier, and this barrier held not too bad. All right, it was pushing back. It was coming down and it was eating through the scales, but, well, I don't know, I guess it was pretty bad. But it tried to make a defense. That's all lymph fluids, saying, stay back, stay back, stay back. Well, it poked around here, and that's it, done, case closed. The fish is, well, it's not moving. I can't explain this. I just can't. I can't explain the sizes of these things. It's 1,200 miles long. He's just dragging scales way over here. And he was popped right in the tail right here, too. That's a cut. That's blood bleeding out of his dead, decaying tail. And it continues further. All this stuff out here is the feathery tail on it. They had feathers. They had all kinds of stuff. I showed Quetzalcoatl. I showed Scorbzilla. I showed this and that. Typhon was well written about. There's no mystery here. And he's on the maps even from 1375. This is not something that I'm making up. This is here, it's real. They were up over here looking from the space shuttle and they don't see this stuff. I can't imagine how that's possible. I just can't imagine it. Now, for them to talk about it, they would probably be assaulted, yes. That's the issue. You can't talk about reality and truth anymore if it upsets somebody. And this kind of stuff upsets people on every side of the spectrum. The religious people think this is just blasphemy, even though it's real. And the academic people think it's even worse blasphemy, even though it's real. They have the same mindset. No difference whatsoever. They won't accept something unless it fits what they want to hear. And it does not fit what you want to hear. I can guarantee you that. And the whole universe is biological. I've shown this very clearly. Asteroid Bennu, they just came back with a piece of it in its heart muscle. And it is verified every scientific way. They just cannot deal with the facts. Just like they can't deal with this. That has to change. If you want reality, you have to have reality. You can't say, I'd rather be perfectly happy deluded. I'd rather be, ignorance is bliss. Just leave me alone. And that's basically what I get in most cases. So I'd like to see truth come to the forefront and then let it just fall away. If you want, stay away from it. But I think you're going to feel awful funny once you realize this is true and you can't handle it and you can turn your eyes away. I can't imagine that happening. It's like people say to me, I can't unsee this. I'd love to unsee this. I can't unsee it anymore. I cannot unsee what I have seen. And you can't, unless there's really literally something wrong with your mind. It's just too overwhelming, I know. Take your time. Start to talk about it with other people gently. You don't have to come up and say, unless you want to. It can start getting kind of contentious. I'm going to tell you that. Well, you all know that if you're mud fossil people. And if you're not, you will if you start talking about it. But all of this stuff is not a joke. And these balls they're everywhere around the world, everywhere. And they're in space, and they're everywhere. And our moon is made, is what it is. And that's those fascia tubes, vein, artery. That's the tendinenthesis. They said it in every ancient text. The gods' bodies made up the solar system, at least. And they gave them all names: Io and Mimas and Tetchus and Iapetus and all kinds of, and every one of them is a moon or is a celestial deity. And they're all celestial deities. And when Jesus Christ came to earth to become a human, to understand humanity, and I think God told him, I said, you're going to be surprised. These people are going to turn on you, and you won't believe how bad they're going to be to you. And he said, I'll handle it. I'll take care of it. He came down. It didn't work out so good for Jesus, but he had to be 100% human in order to feel all the emotions and desires and hatred and everything. And the last words was, why did you forsake me? Well, he didn't forsake him. He wanted him to understand how terrible it can be. And it lasted a few days of the most worst, terrible situation you can imagine. But if Jesus is going to be real and understand humanity, he has to understand that suffering, humanity just lusts after it. The people that are supposed to be the religious people, the ones who turned against him, want him killed. Right? And this all relates back to the fact that there's nothing but biology. And when he came to Earth, he only had a couple of little tricks in his bag, walking on water and making wine and some extra fish, bring a couple of people back from the dead. That's pretty tricky stuff. That's a pretty good bag of tricks. He had to have something he could show, but he had to have literally 100% humanity. At that point, he saw the suffering, he saw what humanity is like, and he had to experience it. Apparently, that's the deal. And then he went back to where his light vesture was. He went back to the sphere, wherever that was. It said when he left to go back to get his light vesture. When you have your light vesture on, apparently, you can do anything. You could turn anything into anything you want. He could have just vaporized everybody in front of him. But without his light vesture, he was a human being. He could do some certain things, but he couldn't just vaporize everybody, apparently. That's the way I'm taking it. Because he didn't, I don't think Jesus wanted to be crucified. He asked to take away that cup of wrath, and God said no. You want to be a human? This is what it's going to be like. That's the way I'm seeing it. And at that point, Jesus would be, wow, these people are not good. That's the way I would have taken it if I was Jesus. And then he went back to get his light vesture, and then came back to earth, they say, for 11 years to discourse with the disciples and tell them the mysteries of the universe, these deep, deep mysteries. And these are deep mysteries. These are things nobody's known about. Nobody's ever talked about this that I know of in history. This moon being a tendon antithesis, and moon's mimus being another tendon antithesis. This is not nothing. This is big stuff. And Jesus said at the end of time, or at some point, there will be nothing that will be unknown. Everything, 100% will be on the table. And that's why I'm doing this, because this is a little scary. People don't want to know about this. Because it's going to be very, very traumatic. Now, for the people that are already dead, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them. But I know that nobody's going to get out of here alive. In a bodily form, spiritually, hopefully. And when you do, will you ascend, or will you descend, or will you just do, I don't know what happens to you. At this point, I'm not going to tell you what's good, what's bad, what can happen, what can't happen. It's up to you to make these decisions. And look, bizarre bacteria that breathe electricity instead of air. Every single thing there is electrical. 100%. There is nothing that happens in your body, in chemistry, in anywhere that's not electrical. It's all dipoles. That's electricity. So this is a new universe. And either you embrace it or you hide from it. And so far, I've seen a lot of people hiding. That's a membrane, my friends.